Bololo 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 hun. Bololo 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 hun. Wow, that was an interesting little interlude. Boom, 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 boom. Lord, there's something wrong with this boy. Playing too much D&D, I suppose. No such thing. Greetings, programs. Welcome back to Drunks and Dragons. Yo, Nelms is in the house. What's up, y'all? In the house, by the way, is vernacular for here. Okay, welcome back to another episode. We're going to play some D&D like big old bad A's up in this piece. And it's a sassy day. If I'm seeming a little on the sassy side, I pardon my sass. At least it's not back sass. But feeling a bit sassy because, boom, game went to gold bestseller today on drive-thru. So that's just like a, what is this, the Borderlands cover? What am I doing there? So that's insane. 8 days, all thanks to you guys. What is happening? We are going to play some freaking sessions of this shit. Even if you just get the book and you take one little piece out of it, like how to do targets better, and put it in your 5e game, my work is done. So thank you, everybody who has showed up and thrown down, so to speak, street talk for spending dough. Dough is street talk for, well, there's really no way out of it, is there? Okay. So enough crap. Come on, hankering. Good Lord, man. I always spend, I'm talking to you, I'm talking to myself. It's because I see myself on that tiny screen and it makes you like talk to yourself. And I talk to myself a lot. So that, anyway, I always waste the first 3 minutes. I don't even know what the hell I'm talking about. Hello, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. We are going to talk more about ICRPG today. The discussion around the game has been lively, to say the least. The social media blitzkrieg rolling into my home life has been bonkers. So the main purpose of these streams this week, every day, is to try to answer as many questions as possible in the most concise way, and also set these seeds in motion to start playing this. Now, I know it's really cool to collect RPG books. God knows we all do it. As we were saying yesterday, the junk rat of RPGs, right? You just have this pile and you get an entire $50 book and you use like one page out of it, but you feel good about that and you put it on your shelf. And as much as I love doing that, and I do that, with ICRPG, I really want to help everybody get to the table with the game. Now, this is one of the easiest games to get to the table. So my goal with the streams is just to get you a little bit past the, I don't know if we want to do a new system. You know, my players are going to think I'm a weirdo if I kind of propose like, we're going to switch over to ICRPG. They're going to like, why is it icy? Is it like a gangster RPG? What's happening? Instead, I just want to show you what the book really to me represents, which is an approach. So I know that there are classes and worlds and other sort of common dressings that you find in RPG books. But really, as a few of the users has mentioned in the Google Plus group, really the book is a GMing style, and it is a table style. And it is not meant to be this sort of grand opus of RPG books. It's more so meant to be a, here are ways to be, not what to do. And so to that end, I think it's starting to stick. So, I mean, we're only into the 9th day or something, the 8th day of this even being out. So in my world, that seems like an eternity. I mean, it seems like 10 years that I've been, tracking emails and trying to answer every single question and comment that I can. But it's only been 8 days. So that's just like, what is happening? My hands keep, what am I, Obama? The hands keep going to the head. Hands keep going to the head. So let's get into it. We're going to talk about logs today. We're going to talk about it's heavy, it's brown, it's wood, it's better than bad, it's good. Oh. So let's see. Gods of D&D, grant me this boon. Oh, there it is. Okay. So first of all, thanks everybody for all the comments so far. If I don't respond to everything you're saying, it's just because I have lots of windows happening here and lots of cameras. There's a lot going on. So, and there's a couple of comments sliding by that look like they're in Cyrillic or something. So I'm sorry, I can't read those. Hopefully you can hook up a translator at some point and join the fun. Yeah, I think that the hard copies are starting to ship. So those are a 6x9 format, a lot like Dungeon World, and the hardback especially should be a really neat book. And we're just going to keep improving, and it's going to be awesome. And Matt Shaker, that was definitely a Ren and Stimpy. Oh, Greek. Okay, Konkman. Thank you. So if that Greek could be translated in some way, that would be fantastic. One great thing about the PDF revolution, everything can get all around the world instantaneously. And we've got people all over the world who've been emailing me. Bolivia, Greece, Slovenia, which I didn't even know that's like a country. To me, that sounds like a country that was a country like 50 years ago, but that's totally a place. That's awesome. I mean, how many of those smaller countries are there, like in Eastern Europe, that you don't really know that much about, but then you meet someone from there and then you feel like a big idiot and then you're like, got to look it up. And then you're like, whoa, this is a whole thing. Okay. Once again, massive digression. Whew. So thank you, everybody. And all the positive comments, thank you. But I'm going to try to stay on point here because we only got our hour together as fellowship time. And we're going to talk about logs. What the hell are you talking about with the logs, Hankrin? I'm talking about this page in the book. This is page 60. This is sort of toward the beginning of the game mastery section of the book after the oath and so forth. So this is, to me, sort of the very starting place of what you'll want to do when you bring a game to the table. Now, I'm always talking about this kind of angle of like, ICRPG is not going to be the coolest RPG book you've ever read, or the most well-produced, or the biggest, or the thickest, or the most like diverse in its artist contracts and all this stuff. But there are some very dense and refined nuggets, I think, of DM approach inside the book. And this is one of the hugest ones right here. It's super simple, but once you really take this 1, 2, 3 diagram to heart, it really, really can change how simple you see a night of gameplay. And I think this is what ICRPG is about, is the DM and player who's really is playing in more than one game a week. ICRPG will be your best friend because it brings it down to this boiled down form. Now, if you play maybe once a month or even once every 2 months, it may seem short on detail, right? And we can see some of that in the Google Plus group. It's like, well, where's all this stuff? And don't we need some of this stuff? And don't we need some of that stuff? I think the more that you play that sort of hobby side of the game, which is, you by yourself at your house making a character over time, or maybe making a big, complex adventure or something. Yeah, this game might seem a little thin on detail. But if you're playing a ton, like multiple times a week, I think these kind of approaches are going to become very valuable for you. So what is the log approach? Well, it's location, goal, and obstacle, right? So you got L, G, and O. Okay, now, why log, but in the book it's LGO, not LOG? That's because the way that you think it out always has to be LGO, but the way that you play it always has to be log. That's because the obstacle is between you and your goal. So it's the simple method. You guys can see it right here. Where the hell am I? What do we need to do? And why can't we just do it right away? And this can go so far or so short. Okay, so I just want to give you, and there's examples in the book, obviously, but we're just going to kind of do some here together. Okay, so we're going to say location, we're going to say obstacle, and we're going to say goal. Okay, this is just my little DM's journal. You guys know how I am. I pen it up in here. Okay, so I'm going to let's just do a scenario, but let's say I just draw a complete blank. Okay, so I'm just going to go to my ICRPG. I'm going to roll a 1d100 a couple times to choose. That way I don't even have to choose what cards. Okay, so I got an 82. So let me pull up the 82. So I've got my entire card volumes here. I'm just going to play out of volume 1 for fun. 82. Okay, great. So here's my location. This is the card I pulled at random. Let's see if I can get that a little bit out of the way. There we go. Okay, let's roll again. And sorry, my dice are off camera here. I don't have that many cameras. Okay, I got a 43. So let's grab card number 43, which is this little piece of flooring here. That's kind of interesting. All right, it's like, well, that's just a boring piece of flooring. But no, actually, nothing's boring. There are no boring things in this world, only boring people. Okay, third roll, 82. What are the odds? I already rolled 82. That is a freak show. Let's do it. Let's do it again. 25. Okay. 25. Number 25. Oh, great. Okay, so here's my goal, this little goblin cave. Okay, so now I'm really going to get into mixed media land here. So I've got my journal writing, but then my cards are in another dimension on top of my journal. So there's my location is this fort gate. My obstacle is this piece of floor. What the hell? And then my goal is the goblin cave. So the method here is to say to yourself, what the hell do these mean? Why do I have these cards? What is this? This is nothing. And in asking that question, there you start your creative process. Okay, so first of all, location, we have fort gate. Then for our obstacle, we have this floor. What's interesting about it? I don't know. Hell, it's a trapped floor. And then for my goal, I have the goblin cave. Okay. Let's say that my game session is about to start. I'm talking like at 12:15. And I still haven't even made any sandwiches. So I got to go make sandwiches. So I have 5 minutes to think about those 3 facts and pull something together. So then suddenly I'm down at the table and, okay, the heroes have stepped only moments from the end of their last adventure, because remember, ICRPG never goes into downtime. So it's just a few seconds pass and they turn and they manage to close this fort gate from the previous adventure, right? So they secured whatever, they did whatever, and then go over and you find yourself inside behind this fort wall. And you realize that emerging from the forest, it was always behind this wall, and the gates come closed, and there you stand. So according to the orb or the text, or you need to use factoids from your previous session, right? I don't know what you did previously. Use those little factoids, and according to those factoids, you need to find the entrance to this goblin cavern. And okay, great. So now there's an interesting sort of situation going. Do you put the trapped floor like right outside the fort gate? Is the trapped floor, that seems a little weird. Is it right near the entrance to the goblin cave? That seems to make more sense. The goblins trap their prey as they try to enter their cave. Okay, cool. So you get your players to figure out a little bit what's going on. They exit the fort, but right outside the fort wall, there were some gobbies. Okay, so there's some goblins out there, and fight some goblins. I know that's not terribly creative, but I'm at the table right freaking now. So we have 1d6 goblins pop out because they were trying to get into the fort. They battle the goblins. One of them says, "You'll never find our home," and then dies. But in fact, the other goblin, who's super stupid, like looks back toward their house and fights, and then like tries to make a run for it, inadvertently leads the characters toward the cave and disappears in the woods. Right? And then this is happening over the course of, 30, 45 minutes. So now the players approach the direction that the goblin ran. They're in the woods. If not enough has happened yet, maybe there's a little more combat that happens. Then they see the goblin cave up ahead, and there's little, eyes blinking in the dark. And as they walk forward, whoa! If they didn't check anything, if they didn't, push the brush aside and look at the ground, that first person in the lead, usually the person to the left of the DM, needs to make that dex check, all depending on how they describe going into the goblin cave, right? He fails the dex check. The trap drops. He goes in the pit. There's spikes. He gets hurt. He's way down there. It's like a 50-foot pit. Like, this thing is creepy how deep it is. He's way down in there. At that moment, some goblins jump out because I need some more excitement. Some of the goblins are falling in. They're trying to get him out. Oh my God, it's this huge, crazy encounter. And then resolve that encounter, work your way around the pit, get into the goblin entrance, and there you go. There's my first log. It's done. So I grabbed some of the most, honestly, inert cards that I really could here. I mean, look at this. It's a freaking wall, or a door, a floor, and a hole. Like, this is nothing. But you don't really just rely on what you draw to write your story or to decide what's in your game. You just use it as, what I've heard called a creative whack. It's a knock upside the head that pops you out of the blank page syndrome. Okay, and so this page and this section in the book gets a little more into how to generate and use the location goal obstacle kind of method. But really what I just did, what you just saw me do, is the true essence of it. It's just kind of like, oh man, I have no time. I'm going to freaking go for it. So in my notebook, I would probably write a few more pieces in here, right? Like here's goblin attack. Right? Then there's this little thing, and it's like into, and this is kind of how I write stuff. And then there's also a gobby ambush. And I'm like, man, I'm really relying on goblins all the time. I'm kind of getting boring here. So I might want to add something. The goblins have a pet shadow lasher that they have on a leash, and they come out of the thing and they let him off the leash and he attacks, and they fight around this pit. But whatever happens at the game night, I think the thing that's important to remember here is how I got there. I got there using the log method. So if you're looking at running, maybe a test game by yourself or a test game with your one other partner, like usually this is how a lot of games start, is you play like one DM, one player, and you kind of screw around and you're like, wow, this is pretty cool. Let's get the people in here and start a campaign. If you're doing that, this is a great way to get used to how this whole thing can work. So there comes the inevitable question, how do I do it? It's like, okay, Hankerin, I totally understand how you sort of knock me upside the head creatively. I appreciate that. That's great. I have my little sequence of events. Like, here's what I need, right, to run my game right here in my notebook. Okay, and then, oh, the players, there's like 3 of them, and one of them's a weird monk. And okay, well, let's kind of weave that in there. That's why you're in the fort, and there's this religious situation. Okay, great. Yeah, all that stuff's awesome. But inevitably, you're going to come to this nuts and bolts question of saying, yo, what the fuck do I do? How do I do this? Okay, now you're going to need a couple of pieces, and they're so simple, you're going to hate me for it. First of all, you just need to decide on targets. Okay, so for me, I track targets, especially when we're playing online, as you guys have probably seen, boop, with these guys. So there's my little 10 target, right? So for the fort gate and the goblin attack, I'm just going to make that a 10 target. Like that. And then to get things a little exciting, because there's a spike trap nearby, because they're deep in the woods, maybe there's a bunch of bugs in the air, it's late at night, or it's foggy, whatever. Oh my gosh, we're talking 12 target. Right? And then I know, and I don't know if this is going to be my first session, but right inside the goblin cave, ooh boy, there ought to be like some kind of freaky tentacle or something in there, like some kind of pet they're barely controlling, or some creature they just summoned or something. Oh, that's going to be really cool. And it's really dark and gloomy in there, and that's going to be target 14. Now, you can't just bump up 2 notches on your target every single room, or you'll be at 20 in no time. But what you're going to do is, okay, that last session ended on a target 14, and everybody was like barely making it, or we had that wipe or whatever. So I'm going to start this session all the way back at 11, and everybody's going to kind of feel powerful again. Now, since ICRPG, your characters do not level up. Now, they become more powerful, but a DC 11 or a target 11 is going to be just as useful to you 2 months into your game as the first night. And so you don't have to continually retune your game and get the numbers more wildly and wildly out of control. Okay, so there you go. You got your targets. Now, just about every single role target in your game has been figured out. Everything the players do is against this target, whether they're attacking a monster, making a check, right? Or casting a spell, right? Anytime a monster attacks a player, it uses the player's armor as its target. So you know all of your monster role targets. You know that goblins, maybe your goblins are kind of cool. You just put +2 on all their rolls, even their damage rolls. Screw it. That way you don't have to worry about it. So even if I didn't want to forget that, I might just say goblin +2 all rolls. Done. Now you know every single roll target in the entire night, and you don't need to continually check what's the target, what's the target, what's the target. You just freaking know. And what you're going to sacrifice in detail, because I know some of you have got to be thinking, that's not much detail at all. What are you talking about? That's not enough variation in detail. But if you get at the table and sort of take my word for it a little bit, I'm not sure how else to say it, you will find that the detail and joy of the game is not in the variability of the rolls. It's in what gets rolled. It's in what players do to create rolls. Okay, so now you got 2 more pieces to understand in the game, and you're ready to hit the table. They are hearts and easy and hard, right? So let me go over here to my book, and these are right down in here too. So here's easy and hard. Great. And there's hearts on the next page. Super duper. One of the biggest parts of all tabletop games is players using their wits, their sense of humor, the environment, and their character properties to make things play to their advantage. All of these things add up to easy in our ICRPG. It is the advantage they can get. They're not rolling multiple dice. They're not getting extra bonuses. None of that stuff. It's all completely excised. So if you're in this opening room, right, the goblins jumping out of the bushes right outside the fort gate, anytime a player can find an advantage, it's going to make it a 7 target. That's really quite easy to beat on a D20, even with like a +1 bonus or no bonus for that matter. So this is an easy roll. That's an easy roll. That's an easy roll. And then one guy's like, well, I want to jump up off the wall like Jackie Chan style, flip backside, come around and dagger in the eye on this guy. I'm like, whoa. As cool as that is, that sounds like a hard maneuver. But if you can pull it off, then we're going to give you, eyeball poking damage, which is double or ultimate, which depending on how you like to do things. So now he's got to beat a 13 in that opening encounter. And a 13 is not that easy to beat. That's it. That's your mechanic. The biggest one probably that you're going to use the most often is if a player fails at a thing, anything, and then tries the exact same thing again on his next turn, it's easy this time. It is the ultimate way to reward character persistence. Have you ever seen this behavior in a player where they try a thing that was totally awesome and fail, and then they're completely demoralized and they go off and do something else? I hate that moment, especially when it's something brilliant like the guy's backflip off the wall, right? That's a sweet move. So if he does the move and it was hard, he spins around, and he lands it and he misses. And then it's like, whoa, this combat just escalated. And like one of the goblins like runs for their life because they're like, this guy knows Kung Fu, right? So he does the exact same thing the second turn. He's like, I'm going to run up the wall again. And this time I'm going to spin the other way and go for the eye again. Like, this is my fighting style. Then I would take off the hard penalty. Now it's a normal roll. Then he just can't quite land it. So this time he skirts along the top of the spikes, front flip, comes down, and that one's going to be easy because he's just doing the exact same things. But he can't get any easier than easy. He can't get 6 under the target. It never works like that. Easy is as far as it goes. And this is true for someone helping you. It makes it from normal to easy. You tried multiple times, normal to easy. I grew up doing this crap because of my character story. Cool, normal to easy. It's that simple. If people are terrified, things get hard. If the weather is bad, things get hard. If they just got hurt really bad, it could be hard. I know a lot of you guys are DMs and you already have a zillion cases in your mind of when to make it easy and when to make it hard. And those are the two words you need to continually bring to the table. That way, in time, you won't have to remind them what it means. You'll say, give me a hard roll. They'll look down at the table. They say, ooh, okay, the target is a 10 right now. I need to beat a 13. And it's all between the two of you with normal language rather than this trap you often see where the whole table's trying to figure out what to roll against, and you eat a lot of time. So anyway, there you go. That is not the final piece, though. So we've got our targets. We know how to make them hard and easy to make things interesting. We've got what we're going to see thematically. We know how to run a goblin, but wait a minute. How many hit points does this goblin have? You ever ask yourself that when you're getting ready for a DM session? And then you make some weird stuff up like 14, or like you look in the book and it's like 8. And you're like, well, what's the difference between 8 and 14, really? I mean, I'm not sure I see the point. And this is where hearts come in, okay? So here you go. This is your final call. And this is the way I do it. I just draw a little heart and fill it in. There you go. Goblins are a 1 heart monster. They have 10 hit points. Okay, maybe this trap. This is a cool trap. This is a 2 heart trap. Right, and then remember there's this tentacle in here. There's a tentacle drawing, and I can go find my tentacle card. And just because I'm making a call, this is a 4 heart tentacle. This thing's going to be tough, tough, tough to beat, especially when you consider players have 1 heart. And getting a heart stone, which gives you an extra heart, is not an easy thing. It's a very rare roll on the loot tables, and it's very rare that you would be gifted one. This is like one of the greatest prizes in the game. Now you have absolutely everything ready. Contrivance, there isn't an advantage mechanic, because I found that created equivocated rolls, and I can't stand equivocation at my table. I love the advantage mechanic. It made for 2 great years of playing 5th edition, but it created equivocation. Rolling 2d20s and one of them is a 20 or one of them is a 1, or rolling 1 and then forgetting you had advantage and then rolling another and it just created mud at the table. So there you go. Equivocation means many voices. It means conflicting messages. So equivocation is one of the biggest problems with death rules in 5e2. It feels like it equivocates, am I dead or not? And one player will say, oh yeah, you're totally dead. And another will be like, well, wait, no, you're not dead. Bang, that's equivocation. It literally, in its word origin, means many voices. And so you always want a clean voice in a game, A, for speed, and B, for fairness and the feeling of game solidity. So now I have everything that I need for an opening night of gameplay. Now, me as Hankrin, I don't quite stop right there. I always need space. So you guys know, if you watch my YouTube channel, how I'm always trying to experiment with ways to make space always spice up the battle, right? Space is the ultimate enemy. The environment, A, can't be destroyed and is the most deadly thing of all, and is often the most interesting thing of all. You're on the edge of a cliff. You're in a narrow tunnel. You're in a crumbling cavern. You're in a swamp where you can barely walk, right? So then if I'm playing Theater of the Mind, I would just make notes on that stuff. But I usually play with visuals. So let's take this opening encounter. Now, the other night, we were playing Savages of Cath, and this actually could be interpreted as sort of the Savages of Cath type encounter, this one where you come out of the fort and the goblins are there, right? So I think I have a goblin laying around here somewhere. Where is he? There he is, this little guy. So I could have a bunch of these guys. And why is this interesting? Well, I could set up my fort wall there in the woods, and then I could have some boulders, and maybe those boulders could provide cover or could be jumped on, or maybe they're tumbling. Maybe it's raining. I don't know, but I would want my final step would be to get a nice little map on here. So I would say like woods, rain. Okay, then for this part with the trap floor and everything, there's fog and there's bugs, swamp. And then finally, we're in the cavern, and the cavern's crumbling. Maybe they built this thing wrong, or maybe when they pulled the tentacle up, it bumped the ceiling and chunks are falling down, and this is changing the space, and so on and so forth. So at that point, you really have a great night of gameplay ready. And I mean, I literally want you to see how much data this is here. That's it. There's my paint jar, which holds my camera, if you can believe that. How silly is that? So there's my journal. This is a 6x9. This isn't even a 6x9 journal. This thing is tiny, and it's literally that much data. That's half a page in a small little journal, and that's my night of gameplay. So this is really the fundamental message that I wanted to drive home about preparation in ICRPG. Now, I have a lot of games going, as I'm sure you guys could guess. And so it's just like Absolute Tabletop says, I created a thing that I wanted to play. I was very selfish in my creative approach. My approach was, I want a system that is basically what I'm sort of accidentally, inadvertently doing with my own game, but I want to get it on paper, and I want to systematize it, improve it, and get it out to people, and so on and so forth. And that's how we came to this point. That's how we came to the logs. Oh, wow. A lot of coffee, a lot of coffee. That's what gives you these type of behavioral difficulties. Okay, so that was what, 25 minutes of work, pulling cards at random with the dice rolls, assigning them to location, obstacle, goal, doing a little bit of, what does this mean? Okay, well, maybe we go out through the wood. Okay, cool. Hey, that sounds kind of fun. Players are going to mix it up, and then I just made sure that I was stat ready for actual night at the table, which means know your targets, know how to use easy and hard, know your rolls for your monsters, and know your hearts. That's it. And once you really see this, oh man, it is great. Just because the way it keeps you focused on what's going to happen at the table and how to play with your players and let them play, rather than, is this perfect? Is this detailed enough? Is this big enough? Are these stats balanced? Those questions generally don't find their way into the players' hearts in the form of fun. They find their way into the DM's mind in the form of intellectual satisfaction, which, don't get me wrong, is a fantastic feeling. I feel like 13th Age is one of the greatest games for that. The mathematic and detail completeness of that system is so impressive. But then I found myself not able to really get it to the table because it just seemed tough for me to get it all down on paper and get to the table like, we're going to play tomorrow night. Same thing with Symbaroum, actually. I love Symbaroum and I love the world. But when I was kind of like, thinking, hey guys, Friday night, maybe let's try Symbaroum. I realized I could barely teach it effectively in the time I had. So those systems are fantastic, and they all have their home. It's a very big world. There's plenty of room for a lot of games. But this is how ICRPG does it. So that is the big message I wanted to get across to everybody. Okay, gods of D&D, take this thing away from me. Take it away. Thank you. Okay, so let's see if I can get our... Oh, wait, bring it back. Bring it back, gods of D&D. There we go. Let's see if we can get our chat stream up here so it'll be in the archive. There it is. Looky there. Fan-freaking-tastic. Okay. So this way, when we archive this video, it will contain our chat stream as we kind of go into Q&A mode here. Let me zoom in. There we go. That's a little better, right? Super. So we are no longer in target 10. And that is really all I wanted to get across to everybody for today. So let's kind of move into the second half of these fun noon get-togethers that we do, which is like, what do you guys think? What do you have to say? And what's next? I'm into this big time, but I haven't yet the book. Jake, that's all good, man. No worries. Hey, Mom, I'm on TV. Bung. No, there are no spoilers for tonight's game of Savages of Cath. Will be at 7 o'clock tonight, Pacific Daylight Time. Hey, Gary, what's up? Mission Night, what's up? Is the hardcover run limited time on drive-through? Real? Not at all. Hardcovers and the paperbacks will be available from here until second edition comes out, which is many, many months from now. So you're very safe to grab a hard copy. I am going to be updating the PDF as we go, but not so much that it's unstable beneath your feet. So if you find little errors and things, most likely I've fixed all of them and more. But I don't want to update it so much that it feels unstable. So, you know, we can all just eat some typos for the time being. There are a couple crummy errors that you'll see. Like, I think there's one spell that mentions it's both whiz and int, which is like probably the worst error in the book. But hey, I'm one guy. You know, the first day that I released it and we started finding the typos, I basically freaked the frick out. Because I was like, oh my God, I've ruined everything. But now that, you know, a week has passed and I feel like it's going to be okay, really have come to terms with that, especially just being one dude. Balancing the game has been an issue since 3.0. Ivan Munoz, thanks for the comment, man. I totally agree. I think the concept of balance itself is fundamentally a flawed concept and really just sets people up to be disappointed with their own game designs. I don't believe in the word balance. There's no balance. There is just, is it fun and is there variety? Does the Shadow have no weapons in his recommended equipment on purpose? I so much assumed that people would rock weapons. I didn't always include them in recommended equipment. I just totally assumed that if you're a Shadow, you're going to have a dagger, a sword, whatever. So I started feeling like it wasn't horrifically useful for me to mention dagger as recommended equipment. So like so many things in the book, I'm going with my instincts as I write, and I really am not the most systematic writer in the world. So you'll notice a lot of these little foibles, which everybody is in the Google Plus group. So is it whiz or int? I think in the case of that error, it is a whiz power. Just purchased volume 1. Hey, here's Corey again. Give the random drawing of cards a go tonight and see, hey, it's super duper. And Corey, I think it was you with the awesome picture of the book printed out on your Kia steering wheel. Is that correct? Am I playing concentration with success right there? That was an amazing photo. Though I hope this project don't be another Dungeon World or Lord of the Fat Purple Pants. I'm not sure what LOTFP is. Well, that's actually a really good post and good comment, Ivan. I appreciate that. Dungeon World has come up a lot because it is a huge inspiration for me. But like so many people, I just was infatuated with it and never quite got it to the table and got a full game of it running because some pieces of it were a little counterintuitive. But also, I don't think that's it. I think its longevity and its community embracement have proved what a great game design it was. It just didn't fit for me. I would actually suspect that the fate of ICRPG will be similar to Dungeon World, is that a lot of people will be really excited about it here at the beginning, and many of them will return to 5th edition as their primary game. And I'm totally okay with that. I would actually assume that to be the outcome. My hope is to be as impactful as Dungeon World. I have massive respect for Adam Koebel and Sage LaTorra for the way that they helped us start thinking differently. And it's the same with Fate. I don't play Fate, but I had a great time reading through Fate, and it changed a lot of how I think about the game and how I play. And it's a huge intellectual community that we're building. It's not just a, you know, am I a zealot of this system or that system? I think the real fun question is like, which pieces make meaningful and lasting contributions that get people excited and get them back to the table to play more? Oh, Lamentations of Flame Prince. Yeah, I've heard about that, but I've never gotten into that. The title, I think, scared me away. So specific. What is the point of a multi-heart chest after a battle? Oh, ho, ho, ho. Boy, you can ask my players about this. So something like a 3-heart chest with like a 15 attempt target on it. Oh my God. This thing is like bolted, glued, and nailed shut. Who cares? When time is always tight in a game, suddenly this becomes very interesting. They're lugging around this massive, heavy chest, and any spare moment they get, they pick at it a little bit. Basically, and a few people have started to realize this, ICRPG is one big race. The whole concept of effort, which is what we're going to get into tomorrow, really is just a time control system. And the whole game is a race. It's a race to get chests open. It's a race to learn spells. It's a race to learn complex weapons and armor. It's a race to kill enemies. It's a race to overcome tasks. And by race, I mean doing enough effort to overcome a thing. So when you get a huge, difficult chest, it's a way for me to control time before you get the contents of that chest, which will create character progression. In a lot of games, this same time control is created by experience. You are gaining enough experience over time to reach a progression point. So big chests are awesome. I highly recommend trying one. You think it's most important? What's the most important thing you learned while working on ICRPG? Wow, that's a great question. Breaking Inferno, thank you. It is all about bookcraft. There is so much hidden technique in making a highly communicative book. And so, and technical as well, like just executing, getting the book produced. So I have learned a ton about how to better communicate the concepts. And I still have a long way to go. I have to work on my consistency of terminology. I have to work on my scatter, scatter of concepts so that they're always flowing properly. And most of all, I think I just need more experience with how to make a really, really high grade feeling book. And I know that's elusive, but this means goofy stuff like really getting control of margin work and of how your bleeds work and how columns and gutters, and really getting that feeling of like, this is a highly refined book. And in this area, no one beats Wizards of the Coast. The D&D books are so well made, but they have an army of people who are all masters of that craft. So I got a long way to catch up on that one. I have a problem with my players joking and fooling around. Well, that's probably time that you might need a tribunal. No game system is going to change that. If you're familiar with my YouTube channel, a tribunal is a meeting of your game group away from the table where you as the DM are the leader and have the courage to talk about frank issues right out in the open. And these are issues like maybe people are distracted when they play. Maybe people don't really show up. Maybe they keep sort of punting the game and like it's kind of wrecking the vibe. Maybe somebody's overbearing. Maybe you feel like somebody's hogging the spotlight sort of with their turns. Maybe you have this kind of, there's too much goofiness. Maybe there's too much violence. Maybe it's too many like, ears are being collected or something. And these kind of issues are not well resolved when you're sitting at the game table because that's game time. It's much better to meet at the coffee shop or at the pub and sit and openly talk about how do you guys think the game is going and is it what you want it to be? And I think it's hard to overestimate the value of the tribunal. I highly recommend it. It really can get some of the social oddity out of the way and make your game better in a lot of ways. Mishi Knight, thank you very much. Appreciate that. Regarding your contribution to the RPG scene, as said above, the DM section alone is one already. Kara Steiger, thank you very much. That's probably the most boiled up portion of the book, as well as I think the monster design too is very like lots and lots of time went into the final form of those. But thank you very much. You guys know me, always thinking about better dungeon mastering. Encounter architecture is amazing. Will you be adding your 1d6 maze mechanics to later versions? That's a great idea. Yes, if I can just get the time and get it in there. I really had fun with the 1d6 maze. I know a lot of people did, so we'll get that in there eventually. Shove them in the oven. Yeah, as far as the cards and making them sturdy, I am looking into the print-on-demand, like tarot quality cards. It's going to probably be a little expensive, like maybe $30, which to me is really a lot. But I'm going to see if I can set it up, and those of you who want a really well-made card set can jump in on that one. I've seen combat and samples against smaller, easier monsters. What about something like a dragon or a frost giant? Boy, that's a fantastic question. The Black Drake in the book is that creature, or the Child of Azathoth, or maybe even a brain horror if you powered him up a little bit. The experience is going to be very similar, except one key thing. Your players are going to have a very hard time surviving. Players with 10 hit points against a Black Drake with 80 or 70 and all these spells, and it can steal spells, and like, holy moly, they have to use the environment. They're going to have to be clever, and they have to be afraid. Brazen characters in ICRPG tend to get wiped out. I think Dungeon World, although beloved, has a huge flaw of their creators. Besides their extremely active community, simply left their work behind and moved on. Yeah, I do agree with you a little bit there. Despite the community really taking the Dungeon World ball and running, it seemed like those two creative guys just had so much going on. They just kept trucking. And man, can I relate. So let's not do that with ICRPG. Let's keep living inside this and keep growing this and push it and get some life out of it. Yeah, totally agree, Karis Steiger, totally agree. And Low 505, what's up? What's next for ICRPG, Matt Shaker? Well, Volume 3 is coming out, the all sci-fi card volume. I have started that, started drawing all the airlocks and fuel cells and reactors and alien pods and hypersleep pods and all that stuff. Cool, like ship floor decking, ships, planets, asteroids, all kinds of stuff. That and the table expansion. That includes new loot tables, some hero generators and monster generators, and a little hint of the Wild West setting that's coming up called Ghost Mountain. How long did it take you to write this? Oh my gosh, 30 years. I mean, the actual writing, I started in January. The actual sitting down and saying, I'm going to make this into a book. But the contents of this book go all the way back to when I was 14. And I was running my very first, actually, hack, which was called Living Weapon. It was a cyborg game that was a sort of a hybrid of GURPS and Rifts, if you can believe that. That was my very first game. Yeah, there's the, thanks, Bung. Appreciate that. Could anyone tell me where to find the Google? Oh, okay, cool. And, you know, sorry, guys, if I'm missing questions, but there's a lot, like, sliding by, so. Still not convinced about all monsters having the same target if in the same room, i.e. minions are just as easy to hard as it is a boss monster. It can be tough to accept. If it doesn't feel right to you, you can always make your boss a hard target. There you go. And, you know, be welcome. Of all systems, this is the system to be like, this little piece doesn't feel right to me. I'm going to hack it. Hack it. Remember, the book is intended as a guide of a way to be, not this is the rule set. If you don't do it, we're coach. Some guy's going to swing in your apartment with a black mask on. What ideas were too weird or unwieldy to fit into the core book? Brian Smith, thanks for the question. That's a really good one. We had a version of the game where there was really no distance. There was no movement. You just moved from card to card, and there was like a sort of no man's land in between. It was so bizarre because I was trying to get, you know, solve the distance problem, which is it eats so much of table time, and it was freaking weird. Weird, I say. We also had no classes, which wasn't weird, but it was, our group was like starting to blend into one another. So those things just wound up being too weird. Please set aside time to write your traps book. We fiend for your wealth of knowledge. Dezu6, thanks, man. I appreciate that. I want to get that done. I can tell you just doing these two tables, which has been my work this week. I did the epic loot table for ICRPG, and I did the cursed loot table, which is super fun. That's 200 items. And just sitting down and do those, I got to admit, it is not easy. So it's just sitting down and doing 100 traps is not going to be an easy thing. Good news, the cursed loot table does include a bunch of traps that come in the form of chests. See you tomorrow, Hankrin. Hey, take it easy, Gary. Thanks for stopping by, my man. Stay classy. What do you think about third-party supplements for ICRPG? I'm all about it. I posted the badge on the Google Plus group, so if you just make your own content and you want to put that badge on there that says for use with ICRPG, feel free. Technically, it is not like an OGL, so right now, you're not allowed to sell that work without my sort of written consent and without having some kind of a deal set up. So we'll get there. We'll get there in time. But for right now, we just need to be making stuff for the fun of making stuff. And then I would expect or hope in a year we're doing it like Dungeon World, where like Perilous Wilds is a fantastic work that piggybacks on Dungeon World that is for sale and for profit and so forth. And it's brilliant for the community. So we're going to get there. We are going to get there, and it's going to be awesome. Alex Wilson, here is an awesome question. What's the reason for making spells loot-based and not a class ability, i.e. spell list kind of thing? Well, for one thing, if you guys haven't noticed, I am not a huge fan of like lots of spell complexity at the table. That said, I also wanted it in the game. A lot of people love spells. We also wanted the freedom of progression in all the classes so that you could build hybrids in a very simple way, because the best games I see have like odd hybrid character concepts. And finally, I was on the verge of running an entire game in 5th edition with only found magic instead of guaranteed magic. I have always found it to be really freaking weird that a character levels up and suddenly knows 5 new spells. It does not feel right to me. Spells feel like things that you need to discover in play. And I can't really give much better explanation than that. It's just a feel and instinct issue. Why wouldn't everyone just use a weapon to open locked items? If lockpicks are a D6 and so are weapons. Aha. Well, great question. Thanks, James. Story, variety, style. You would be amazed how much players sacrifice that they could do for what they wind up doing because of style. Secondly, there are magical ways to open chests. Maybe you're a hillman and you have basic effort is better than using a weapon. Maybe you don't like the idea of smashing a chest. Maybe you think there's a chance of damaging the interior, so you carefully open it, so on and so forth. Maybe you're the kind of guy who just outthinks the lock. You sit there and stare at it for 3 turns and then go, oh, there's a little release right here. That's grace. That's style. A lot of the things in ICRPG actually lend themselves to that and don't force the balance on the game. You said for those who purchase ICRPG, you'll be getting other updates and such for free. Have you thought that is true? Every update to the digital copy is free, including the new loot expansion, which will be coming hopefully at the end of the week. Although it's already Wednesday. Have you ever thought of opening a Patreon account? Of course I've thought about it. There's some really great Patreon people out there, but honestly, I am to the gills in websites and logins and tracking users and commenting, and it's insane. So I'm going to stick right where I am and keep going, and Patreon can sit over there with Patreon people. A bit of a random question, but where did you get your suit of armor? Oh my. Well, I put it together piece by piece over the course of a few years. Red Sky Trader and Armor Venue on Amazon are great sources to get single pieces of armor, and I wanted a certain style and I wanted to build it myself. But you know, my chest plate, it still just doesn't fit the way I want it to. I need to get a much bigger chest plate. You know, it's very like, you know, kind of, I want a much more mobility in my chest plate. So I still have a ways to go to master my suit of armor, but yeah. And then last year at Ren Fair, I actually busted one of my tassets because we were screwing around and just had a big day, and that happened. So is this basically Mokhtar, Cramy Cakes? No, this is not Mokhtar. Mokhtar is a very different beast, and I will leave that to later conversations. That is still in the vault. Praise Moloch. Oh, heresy, heresy. Just tuned in. What did I miss? Nothing. Is it on DM's Guild right now? What is it called? I would like to purchase it if it is. Is what on DM's Guild? I'm not sure. I understand. Do you make a sequel to The Burning in New Haven? Did I make a sequel? Yes, it's called The Vault of Duke Harold, and that video is up. There's another one coming called The Depths of the Dark Brotherhood, which is the 3rd chapter in that saga. Yeah, Perkins Dearborn. Thank you, man. That's a fantastic summary. That's great. For the time-pressured DM, which is the only DM I've ever known. I can't imagine a DM being like, yeah, I'm going to spend a nice 50 hours getting this ready. Oh, yeah, man, I got nothing but time on my hands. Any inspiration from A Sundered World and Warp Shell? Man, that's a cool question. Way to know your homework, Crusader ad. Everything I do is inspired by Sundered World. That book just blew my imagination wide open. I freaking love it, and it has changed how I think about a lot of things. Have you tried Oath of Frozen King? I don't have a copy yet. You can't get copies. But yes, I love the adventure kit idea, so I'm gonna follow those guys around like a little puppy with that idea. That's a great idea. Oh, I see what Kim was asking. Yeah, Drive-Thru RPG is where you want to go, and it's still beyond all rationality is sitting in the #1 spot. I have no idea how that's possible. but that is a thing that's happening. Mercury must be in retrograde or something. Gotta go. Children demand the foods. Strength to you, Matt. Be good. If you can move just one idea from ICRPG into D&D 5e, what would it be? Whew. Well, it would probably be timers, the use of timers. I know that room DC is really huge with everybody, but I think the biggest thing lacking in 5th edition is control of time. 5th edition has a real tendency to accidentally squirrel into, what do you call it? Out of initiative, when nothing happens and everything weird happens. Things happening in time and dice being out in the open, showing that time coming, is a huge change to 5e. Does a campaign arc need an epic boss fight at the end? It needs it near the end, not at the very end. Just like Lord of the Rings, right? The big boss fight is at the 3/4 mark, not at the very end. And I think a good campaign is that way too. How does it feel to make such a positive impact in our tabletop RPG community? Geez, Dezu6, that is a very friendly, thank you. I appreciate that. It's friggin' fantastic. If that's what's really happening, it's fantastic. You know, it's always hard to really know each other over the internet. And so I look forward to meeting more and more people this year in person. And that's when I think that those feelings might really, you know, come to bear. But man, I've been doing this so long that to actually sort of come out of my cave and wave at everybody and everybody waves back, it's a great feeling. Prue, hey, that's awesome. Do you want all of it? I'm going to buy all of it. It's up to you. No words on that. But yeah, so far it seems like kids really seem to like it. And, you know, drive-through is a site run by a very small group of people. So it does have downtimes now and again. And, you know, it's all normal stuff. I've adopted your timers. Yeah. Timers are really, really powerful. Yeah. And especially in the early days of using a timer and putting it on the table like that and then clicking it down. It's just kind of like, what do you mean? What do you mean in 3 rounds? What's going to happen? Well, I don't know, something. Meta. I agree on the time thing. It does tend to float around without pressure and risk. Yes. And generally, I think this is just an error of the hobby that's been around for a long time. But just when I've had DMs that really blew my mind and upped my game, one of the keys that they did was constantly pressure the game. No do whatever. You just had to get down this narrow ledge on a cliff with birds attacking you. And like, that's the whole session. None of this go to town stuff. This is a great video. Love watching them. I'm in Ecuador. Hey man, greetings from the great space coast all the way down in Ecuador. Yeah, it's great to have you, David. Love me some timers. Hell yeah, you got to get back into drawing. Oh, you got me back into drawing. Theodore Lowe. Well, that's fantastic to hear, man. The only mistake you can make when you're drawing is not doing it. Apart from hankering for an ale, do you use a lot of wordplay names? No, I don't. I'm not a pun guy. I'm not good at the pun game. I know people who are good at it. I'm not. I also adopted the 3 T's, but other than loot or potions, what are other treats? Hey, that's a cool question. Derek, what's up, man? See you in a few days. A lot of the treats I do are damage spikes. So like a pillar that you could knock over onto an enemy, a pit that could be, you know, you could throw enemies into. I've often been told that the coolest thing you can do in a battle is to kill a guy in one move, like by throwing him off a bridge. So usually my biggest treats are damage spikes, using the environment to overcome otherwise very difficult to beat guys. But, you know, man, every room is different. It can be tough to come up with treat after treat, but you don't always just want to heal. And I wouldn't even count loot as a treat. A treat is something used in the encounter, not just loot that upgrades the characters. Kara Steiger, yeah, totally. Are you going to show ICRPG at any conventions? Well, I am going. I guess I can announce that. Christina, thanks for the question. I am going to Gen Con this year, but I'm not going there to peddle ICRPG or anything. I'm just going there to just loiter and hang out and say hi and look around and be a noob. So I'm not really, you know, buy my stuff, guys. I'm not really doing that. And then I am, well, this is the first time I mentioned it, but I am appearing at the Tucson Comic-Con in November. They invited me down and paid my way and everything. So I'm going to be doing 2 live events down at Tucson Comic-Con in November. So that's going to be crazy. I was going to maybe try to figure out a way to play mass D&D or something, and then probably give a sort of professor-style talk about kind of the stuff we're talking about right now, and the course of life that ICRPG has taken this year. The fact that it's come to the top of the heap within a few days proves that there's demand for change and at the tip of the spear. James Dutcher, I agree. I don't know if I'm the tip of the spear, but I do agree that things are becoming modern. I think that there's no going back from Dungeon World and Fate. And, you know, all of the cool smaller games like Black Hack and Blades in the Dark and, geez, there's just so many to mention, you know, Apocalypse World and stuff like this. You know, games that did not take all the assumptions as law. And I think especially then when 4th edition was a little bit of a not such a hit, I really do think the landscape started changing. Now, nobody's ever going to touch D&D, I think, as the ruler, and maybe with Pathfinder right there too, just because it's what people know. But I do think that as this hobby continues to grow, which it has over the last 30 years, there are pockets of modernity that pop up now and again. I think we're in one of those periods. So thanks for the compliment. I appreciate it. We'll see if time bears that out. Will we have more material dealing with games heavy in horror elements? Oh boy, Ivan Cantero Munoz. Hello again, Ivan. Thank you for the question too. That is a great little piece of T-ball. The Wild West setting that's going to be in ICRPG, the 3rd setting called Ghost Mountain, is my Wild West horror setting. It's going to be awesome. I will say no more. Messed up my first timer by having all the monsters appear at once. That's not a mess up, dude. That's perfect. Awesome YouTube page, brother. Keep it up. Freshwater Fish. Thanks, man. Love your username. Alejandro Pruno. Love that name, man. That's got some spice to it. I'll see you in Tucson then. Hey, that would be great, Alejandro. I'll see you then. Get a little bit baracho. Just starting my way to DMing. You're so inspirational. Pedagogical. Greetings from Argentina. Pedagogical. That's awesome. I haven't seen that word from Astonishing Swords and Sorcerers, which used that word a lot. A pedagogical effect. That's fantastic. Now we've got equivocate and pedagogical in the same session. We are badasses, you guys. Hello, friendos. Sir Aaron, welcome. Okay, guys, it's coming up on 1 o'clock. So once again, I have talked myself in circles. My own voice starts sounding weird. And I think I need to get out and ride my bicycle a little bit in the sunlight. And remember all that's best in life. Yeah, Kim Hulaganga. Wow, that is another cool name. We've actually been sitting at that #1 spot for 8 days now. It's crazy. We just went to gold bestseller today, which is just insane. So I'm hoping if everybody just keeps showing up and the word of mouth keeps spreading, we can make it to platinum. And that's really like one of my huge, I guess you could call it a life goal. Fuck it. That would be absolutely fantastic. Greetings from Germany. How you doing, man? Golderstedt. Any plans about high sea pirate adventures like 7th Sea? You know what? I am not good with pirates. I don't get it. I need to work on my pirate game. Let's just put it that way. I have stuff going right now and I'm packed. Someday maybe we'll get to pirates. But honestly, I just am a head scratcher with pirates. I'm like, what's cool? I don't even know. Thanks, Hank. Hey, Torgny Highland. Thanks, man. Thanks for stopping in. Eager to give it a try. Great minutia of numbers. Well, hey, that's fun at some tables, so you got to rock on with it. What are you covering tomorrow? Tomorrow we're going to get into effort and all the little foibles and oddities in the book that people have asked questions about and how you're going to resolve it at the table as you DM. So it's going to be awesome. Tomorrow is Thor's Day, coolest day of the week. So we are going to bring the thunder. Haven't figured out how to Google Plus yet. Bung keeps throwing the link up. I can kind of see the pirate craze. I mean, they're really cool. It's just as a storyteller, I just find myself in trope land. I'm about to pop on the ICRPG book. Is that hardcover the way to go? I can't plug any of my own products. I'm not qualified. I think the stuff is really cool. But you do save a good bit of money by grabbing the paperback. So it's just all up to how you like that stuff to feel. Yeah, who knows? But I think the real guts you can just grab in a PDF. You can print out like that great picture. And I know spiral binding, a lot of people like it because you can leave it open to a page. So that could be worth doing at your local print shop if you're a craft type DM. But regardless, remember, ICRPG is much more than a book. It's all the miniatures, all the cards, and all that other stuff to try to kind of ramp you up and get you going. I saw a funny discussion on Reddit about like if ICRPG was too expensive or something. I'm not sure people fully understand the amount of work that goes into doing all the art, writing and layout and publishing for all your own stuff. So if 16 bucks seems expensive, that's where I wound up. That felt fair to me. I know dryads are traditionally female and lusty, but I don't know how to put that into a game. Oh man, sounds like high charisma. It sounds like a sort of a hypnosis trap where they're like, ooh, you know, like the sirens. Love the idea of messing around with dryads. That'd be cool. Those folks are weird. Yeah, I've never fully understood Reddit. It seems like it has a little bit of a negative tone to it. And so I generally stay away from negative things. I like to think positive and move forward and believe. Maybe that makes me sort of a naivete or something, but that's how I like to live. You do get all the updates for free on the digital version. Loot table coming. Whew. Okay, you guys, I'm all done. It's past 1 o'clock. I got to get out of here. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Tune in tomorrow. We're going to talk more about cool stuff. And yes, I'm all about Harbinger. Harbinger is coming, but that is a totally different topic. It's going to be amazing. This year is just going to be a blast. And it's just going to be an awesome year. Things are really going in an exciting direction. I think it's going to be a fun year to be a dungeon master. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in. I got to jump out of here. Strength, honor, beer, and until tomorrow, fear not the beholder. All right, guys, I'll see you. Gods of D&D, warp us out of here. Oh.